The best Star Wars content we've ever seen just wrapped up its second and final season, and with it came a brand new U-Wing. The set itself is pretty okay, it has a good cast of characters with a solid build of a fan favorite ship. The biggest problem with it is the lack of interior space. You can only fit the pilot and a single passenger inside. For a troop transport, I think that's pretty lame. So I spent a few days modifying the set to fix that issue and improve or upgrade other parts of the ship to get as much accuracy as possible into this size of build. One of my favorite and last additions to the U-Wing was this attachable landing gear. It's such a simple mod, but it really makes it look that much better when it's displayed as opposed to the ship just resting on its bottom. The front landing gear attach on the underside of the wings and come off in these larger assemblies, whereas the rear landing gear are much smaller and are attached to these rounded 1x2 plates. They tend to come off with the rounded plates though, so I typically have an extra set nearby to swap on after I take the landing gear off. You can also see I recolored the bottom half of the ship to be white. I definitely prefer this look, it's much cleaner and certainly more accurate, but I understand many of you don't want to swap out this many parts. So there will be two different versions of the U-Wing instructions available. This version, which has the recolored white bottom, and then the gray version that reuses a lot of the gray parts and exterior plates from the original set. On the nose of the ship, I removed the spring-loaded shooters and swapped out the curved slopes for these angled plates to match the slope pieces on the sides. Then I also changed the build for the cannons as well. The cockpit section underwent significant changes throughout the modding process. I added these white panels around and behind the windscreen, with the airlock and greebling behind it getting a bit of a makeover as well. Getting into the cockpit is quite a bit different from the original set, where you used to be able to fold up on the windscreen. Now you simply lift this entire assembly off the top to get access inside. Where you'll see I completely reworked and upgraded the pilot seat to have more controls and visibility through the bottom windscreen. It's also accessible from the passenger cabin inside, just like the ship in universe. I'm really proud of how this cockpit section turned out. It's overhauled entirely, but it's still simple enough in its functions and features to feel like a playset. Inside the ship is what needed the most attention from the original set. So it's been widened to seat 4 minifigures or one very tall and awkward K2SO mounted to the front using this bracket. And I did keep the folding doors from the original set. Lots of you on Instagram asked me why I didn't do sliding doors, and it's simply because it doesn't really need it. Or at least, I don't need it. These folding doors function fine, and they're still a practical door for the ship, so I didn't feel it was necessary to build sliding doors into it. The final mod we'll talk about are these cannons I added to the underside of the wings. These aren't canon, they're not seen anywhere in universe. I simply made them up because I wanted the U-Wing to have some extra weapons. So I built these small turrets and mounted them underneath the wings so that they can face forward or even be used to cover troopers exiting the U-Wing in combat. They do go in the same spot as the front landing gear though, so you can't have both mods attached at the same time. But that largely covers the big features of my modified U-Wing. I did do some smaller things, like modifying the engines a tiny bit and removing a lot of the scattered weathering from around the ship. There's still some small pieces of it here or there, but most of it got moved into this one section of weathering in front of the engines. I did that to tell a bit of a small story. As opposed to just random bits of weathering all over, now it looks like the ship has been through some combat and has taken a hit right in this small section near the engine that caused the weathering around it. But if you don't like that small bit of storytelling, you can just swap the parts out for white and you can have a pristine U-Wing. If you want to build the modified U-Wing for yourself, you can head on over to my Patreon page right now to get PDF building instructions for the white and gray versions of the ship, along with a parts list for both so you can order your pieces. Let me know what you think of the modified U-Wing in the comments below, and if you have any suggestions for any future alternate builds or mods, drop those down below as well. Andor was an amazing show, and I'm sad to see it's over already, but I definitely think it's some of the best Star Wars content we've ever seen, and I really hope that this U-Wing isn't the last LEGO set we get based on the show.